Strategy games have been around since the early 80s, and PC gaming wouldn't be PC gaming without them. Whether you have a case of the one more turn syndrome at 3 in the morning in a 4X game, or you're trying to figure out the most efficient starting build order in an RTS to crush your opponents, strategy games appeal to our inner commander who wants to plan, build and dominate. And what's better than a strategy game? Free strategy games, of course. Whether open source projects made by people in their spare time, games that used to be commercial and were released by the developers for free afterwards, or free-to-play titles that let you have lots of fun versus the AI or your friends without spending a dime. The following 10 titles won't cost you anything and can be downloaded right now. All of them have separate download links in the description, and where possible I'll be adding in community-made patches or improvements which make them better to play or get running on modern hardware. A lot of the titles will be real-time strategy games, but I try to include some tactics, 4X and turn-based games as well, so there's something for everybody. Okay, put away your wallet, ready up those hotkeys and let's get started. Our first entry today is 0 AD, a historical RTS in the style of Age of Empires. This open source project has come a long way since it was originally developed as a mod for Age of Empires II. Later it changed to a standalone game with its own 3D engine, and it has been released as free software since then. It's still in the alpha phase, meaning you can download and play it, but some features are still missing and performance can be a bit laggy when there's lots of units on screen. Nevertheless, it's very much playable both in single player against the AI or in multiplayer over the internet. Choose from 13 civilizations like the Egyptians, Spartans, Romans or Britons, each with unique bonuses and units. The game is about economic development and warfare, so gather food, wood, stone and metal with your villagers and progress through the different phases to unlock new buildings, technologies and units. They try to be more historically accurate by having the lower tier soldiers also be able to build buildings and gather resources. As was customary at the time, professional armies didn't really exist and male villagers were used as different types of soldiers during wartime and returned to their village once the war was over. So that's a nice little detail. You can play on various themed randomly generated maps or take a look at the dozens of maps or scenarios already made by the community. The included scenario editor lets you make some maps or scenarios for yourself and share them online. With the current state of the somewhat messy definitive edition for Age of Empires, especially the hustle of going through the Windows Store and lack of information about Age of Empires 4 for that matter, 0 AD is something you might want to check out if you haven't already. The second game on the list is Battle for Wesnoth. When I first started research for this list, I almost cut out Battle for Wesnoth because I didn't like the graphics in the screenshots. But when another entry fell through for technical reasons, I decided to give it a shot, and oh man, I'm so glad I did. Because when you start playing it, you keep wondering how this is a free game. And not free to play or freemium, but totally and completely free. It's so well made and polished that you would be hard pressed to find a game in the commercial offerings that trumps Battle for Wesnoth. It's a turn-based strategy game with a high fantasy Lord of the Rings type style. In the official campaigns, you will usually start out with a general that can recruit troops to send into battle. These units gain experience when they defeat enemies and can be brought from one scenario to another in the same campaign, so you can become quite attached to them over time. Especially in the longer campaigns. The graphics have a lot of charm and attention to them and remind me of Super Nintendo era JRPG games, and screenshots don't really do them justice. It has single-player campaigns and scenarios, multiplayer battles, co-op campaigns and hundreds of hours of community-made content and campaigns to play through. There is one campaign in particular that features over 200 scenarios and has an epic story to boot. All of that is easily accessible in the in-game menu and completely free of charge. Install and play, simple as that. I guarantee you when you start getting into this game it can keep you occupied for months to come. Our third entry is Empires Apart. It's the only free-to-play title on this list, but I've had more fun with it than I dare to admit. Developed by indie team Destiny Bit, it's a traditional RTS with some charming minimalistic 3D graphics and some fun multiplayer battles and AI skirmishes. You start with a town center and some villagers, start collecting resources, advance your economy and military, build fortifications and new buildings, research new technologies, and conquer your enemies. Destiny bit obviously took inspiration from Age of Empires and didn't change all that much. The buildings, resources, and even starting units are almost identical to Age of Empires 2. The first major difference is in the way how you advance your civilization. You don't click up an age in the town center, but rather your economic and military advances are done independently from the town center and can be triggered multiple times each. The different civilizations have roughly the same buildings and units, but they can have widely different abilities that will change the way you play. And the last major difference comes in the form of hero type units, which have special abilities like buff an area for combat or spawn units for your army. Single player provides you with skirmish battles against up to 7 AIs, a survival mode where the goal is to last as long as you can against waves of enemies, and some challenge levels that play like little puzzles and can teach you some of the nuances of different units for different factions. Multiplayer is what the game was designed to be played at though, and you can find a variety of match types in the classic Age of Empires style like Conquest, Assassination, and King of the Hill. The free-to-play version comes with the Byzantines free of charge and other factions, which you can try out in a pre-made scenario, costing $4 a pop to play. But I played dozens of games with the Byzantines and never felt hard-pressed to buy any other faction. They are well-rounded and can hold their own against the pay-to-play factions quite well. And we continue with number 4 on the list, which is Endless Space. Amplitude Studios give us some great fantasy and space 4X games in recent years, and on January 24th of 2019, in celebration of what they call Endless Day, they decided to give away the first game in the series for free. Just go to the Games Together website, which is an Amplitude owned platform, register a username, link your Steam account with the platform, and voila, you can download Endless Space free of charge. It's a space-themed turn-based 4X game where you choose from several different starting factions or create your own and go explore, expand, exploit and exterminate at your leisure. You start out with one planet, a scout ship and a colony ship, and manage your empire how you see fit. The big draw for Amplitude 4X games was always that their factions play completely different from each other, rather than having just a few stat bonuses. Grow your empire, research new technologies, and build up your military fleets in preparation for when you meet another player in the galaxy. You can always try the diplomatic way and trade or talk with them, but sooner or later war's gonna break out, and you'll have to battle it out amongst the stars. The battles themselves are gorgeous to look at. You don't directly command your ships, but instead give them 3 sets of general orders that determine how they behave in long, medium and melee range combat. Or you can just roll the dice and let the battles play out themselves. Amplitude's ambition was to develop a modern 4X space strategy in the style of Master of Orion and Galactic Civilizations. The game may not have the broader appeal or production quality of the Civilization series, but in many ways it's smarter. And the different factions and all the different options you have when starting a game do increase the replayability considerably. So go to the Games Together website and download and play this game right now if you haven't already. While you're there, you can get another freebie as well. Love Thyself, a Horatio story, is a free visual novel where you explore the life of one of the Horatios. This is a faction in the Endless Universe which was created by a bored billionaire who started to clone himself, and his clones grew out to be a galactic empire. I haven't played it myself, but it's free and it's there, so go and download it if you want. Number 5 on the list is Ground Control, a sci-fi real-time tactics game from 2000. This game was well received when it was first released, mostly because of its revolutionary 3D graphics. Nowadays the graphics are quite dated, but I found a community-made patch that at least lets you play it in widescreen. With the game being as old as it is, at least you don't need an advanced gaming rig to run this. I think any basic modern PC will do. In this game there is no resource gathering or base management. Instead you call in a dropship at the start of the mission with a pre-selected number of squads. The OpenRA PC can heal units and transport infantry across the battlefield, but once you lose it, it's game over. Also, units that are killed can't be returned, so you will be stuck with them for the rest of the mission. The game teaches you how to use the elevations and shadows on the battlefield itself to gain the upper hand or lay a trap for the enemy. Every unit also has a few special abilities like a grenade launcher or a medkit pack for you to use in battle, but their uses are limited. The game has 30 single player missions divided over the two factions, the Craven Corporation and the Order. You start off as the Craven Corporation on simple missions to determine what it is the Order is hiding. Once you've fought through these missions, you assume the leadership of the Order and fight from their side. Both sides have pretty similar units, but they have just enough difference to make some strategic decisions a must when dealing with specialized units. The ease of control really makes a difference in a game where flanking maneuvers and on-the-fly tactical decisions are very necessary. All in all, a game worth checking out if you like older real-time tactics games, or don't have a very powerful PC to play games on. For number 6 I went with the OpenRA project and the freeware release of Tiberian Sun. First, OpenRA. It's an RTS engine you can download off the developer's website, and it comes with 3 different mods, each representing a classic Westwood RTS. Dune 2, the original Command & Conquer, here named Tiberian Dawn, and Command & Conquer Red Alert. Are you waiting for the remastered versions of these games to come out? Give OpenRA a look. It has single player missions and skirmishes, multiplayer battles, tons of community made maps, and absolutely nails the classic Command & Conquer experiences. It also has an active community with tournaments being organized, people playing or analyzing matches on Twitch and YouTube, and so on. They do add a lot of new features which make it easier to run on modern operating systems, take advantage of widescreen resolutions, and a bunch of other improvements that make the games a blast to play. In addition, ModDB has more mods for the engine you can download, like a medieval mod, a space themed mod, and more. But I have to confess something at this point. I never played the original games when they came out, so my nostalgia feelings for OpenRA aren't as strong. Don't get me wrong, I still have a blast playing it, but Tiberian Sun and its expansion Firestorm are my first Command & Conquer experiences, so when I play these I feel more invested and nostalgic for it. Thankfully, these were also released as freeware some time ago, and people can download and play it for free as well. I found a community-made patch on the cncnet.org website, which lets you play it in widescreen resolutions and online versus other people. This is one of the first RTS games I ever played, and whenever I hear that
Establishing battlefield control. Stand by.
I get all giddy inside. The audio-visual presentation consists of isometric graphics, an amazing soundtrack, and B-movie style FMV cutscenes in between missions. With actors like James Earl Jones and Michael Biehn, you know the developers knew what they were doing back in the day. There are countless mods available for it as well. Some of them took years to develop, and it shows the love and creativity these developers put in their work. Twisted Insurrection in particular is a very cool mod, and if you download Tiberian Sun, I highly encourage you to try it out as well. If you're interested in the history of one of the biggest RTS franchises ever, or just want to experience some of the best games legendary game studio Westwood ever made, then go and download them for yourself. And after these classics, we continue our list with some more. Number 7 on the list is Starcraft and the Starcraft II Wings of Liberty free campaign. Blizzard usually makes games which ooze character and quality, especially their Warcraft and Starcraft series. When they released Starcraft Remastered in July 2017, they made the original game free. It released back in 1998 and is still being played competitively to this day. It's arguably the best RTS game ever released, and was responsible for the RTS esports scene exploding, especially in South Korea. It even had the very first mobile-like scenario implemented back in the day, which later on became its own genre. You get the original 3 campaigns as well as the Brood War Expansion's 3 campaigns completely free. In addition, you can test your skills against the computer AI on the skirmish maps, or versus other people in one of the multiplayer servers, although if you're new to the game, I would recommend the Starcraft II multiplayer instead, as it is a bit less hardcore. It gets you stuck in a 640 by 480 resolution and the graphics themselves are only sprites and obviously very dated, but this only adds to the atmosphere. And the visceral action still gets me worked up and ready for more even 20 years after release. Choose between the 3 iconic races, the Terrans, Humans or Protoss, which all play completely different, and make your way through the campaigns to see where it all started. Playing all 6 campaigns will keep you occupied for about 40 hours, and you can continue the story with the free Starcraft II campaign, Wings of Liberty. In order to get new players to try out the game, Blizzard made this campaign free to play. It'll take you about 18 to 20 hours to complete, and after that you can play some co-op missions or dip your toes in the legendary Starcraft II multiplayer. The other campaigns, Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void, are still pay to play, but I would only go for these if you want to know how the story continues. Blizzard made an excellent decision in making these games free, and we can all reap the benefits of it. Go to their battle.net platform, make an account, download them, and you can spend hours playing some of the best games the RTS genre has to offer. If I would make just one recommendation from this entire list, I would go for Starcraft and Starcraft II. No doubt in my mind. So get downloading. Number 8 is UFO Alien Invasion. It's an open source, squad-based tactics game inspired by the XCOM games. You control a secret organization charged with defending Earth from an alien enemy. Build up your bases, prepare your team, and dive into the turn-based combat whenever you have alien activity spotted. Like the original XCOM games, Alien Invasion has 2 main modes of play: Geoscape mode and Tactical mode. In Geoscape mode, you'll manage your finances, research bases and squads, or launch interceptor aircraft or dropships in response to alien activity across the globe. In Tactical mode, the game is about taking command of your team in various missions to combat aliens wherever they may appear. In this mode, you'll use the team of soldiers you've managed and equipped during Geoscape mode. The game uses a turn-based system where your team and the aliens take turns moving around, fire their weapons, throw grenades, or use special equipment. Each soldier gets a certain number of time units representing the total time they have to act during the current turn. Once a soldier is out of time units, he or she can't do anything more until the next turn. This mode uses a modified version of the Quake 2 engine. As a result, the graphics are not the best, but it does a good job of representing the action on screen in full 3D graphics with some basic lighting effects. I personally couldn't really get into this game, but that's because I don't have a lot of experience with the genre. But I do appreciate the developers putting the time and effort into this open source project. Some research around the web may be needed to figure out the ins and outs as you get deeper into it, but that's something you'll do when playing the older XCOM games as well. Download it from the developer's website and fight off that alien invasion. And we continue with game number 9, which is Warzone 2100. It was developed as a commercial game by Pumpkin Studios and published in 1999, which made it one of the first true 3D RTSs. The developers decided to release its code and data as open source in 2004, and the community has continued working on it since then. Numerous bug fixes, improvements and support for modern hardware, OSs and resolutions have been added over the years, and it's still being played by a small community to this day. The game offers campaign, multiplayer and single-player skirmish modes. An extensive technology tree with over 400 technologies combined with a unit design system allows for a wide variety of possible units and tactics. The 3D engine was very advanced for its time, with hills and mountains providing tactical advantages, and projectiles can even be blocked by steep terrain or buildings. Nowadays it's not much of a looker, but it's interesting to see such an early 3D RTS in action on modern hardware. Units can be customized according to chassis, drive system and mounted weapon or support tool, and it's quite similar to Earth 2150 in that aspect. It comes with 3 different campaigns, an easy, medium and hard campaign, and there's tons of add-ons in the form of maps and mods to be found as well. The gameplay places an emphasis on sensors and radar on one hand and artillery strikes on the other, although many direct and close combat weapons can be researched and deployed as well. Some levels require you to achieve the objective within a time limit, while some without these limits can be used to gather power. In away missions, you must select a limited group of units to transport to a territory away from the original base, and call for reinforcements from the main base every few minutes. Overall, a very solid RTS, and one you should try out if you can overlook the somewhat blocky and dated graphics. And last but certainly not least, we have 0K. 0K has similar gameplay to Supreme Commander. As computers grow faster, 0K intends to scale with them, allowing players to increase their resolution and allowing for higher unit counts with virtually no limit. It was released for free on Steam in 2018 and has a lot of options for those who want to check it out. Players start out with a construction-capable bipedal mech known as the Commander, which acts as the player's avatar. They use their commander to construct a base of operations from which they can expand to fight and ultimately destroy opposing players. Commanders can be upgraded with new weapons and modules as the game progresses. The game includes 10 plus factories, each with 8 plus unique units for a huge variation of viable build orders on most maps. Aside from the factories, there are many important buildings that create resources, provide radar coverage, shield units from enemy weapons, conceal units from enemies, provide defense to a static location, and perform many other functions. It has a single player campaign where you start with only your commander and a few basic units. Each mission unlocks a few more units to slowly introduce you to the game. The missions do not have to be played in a fixed order, so you can choose which units to unlock first. Depending on your performance, each mission yields a different amount of experience points. These are used to improve your commanders and fit them with different modules. Single-player skirmishes against or teamed up with multiple AI players are also possible, with some interesting options like zombie survival or tower defense like chicken modes. Besides that, the game features an extensive multiplayer where you can tweak all kinds of options, or you can start a survival type game with other players where you have to hold out as long as possible against never-ending waves of enemies. The developers regularly organize tournaments so you can test out your skills against some of the best players the community has. All in all, a very complete package if you want to get in some large-scale battles or are just dying for a new game in the style of Total Annihilation or Supreme Commander. Search for 0K on Steam and go and download this thing. It has everything to keep your strategy needs fulfilled for many hours to come. And if you don't like the theme of 0K, the Spring RTS engine supports some other free games as well. If you're more into World War II era games, try out Spring 1944. Or if you want to battle in the Half-Life universe or Star Wars universe, they have that covered too. All of these are easy to get through something called the Spring Lobby, which connects all different kinds of games and maps into one easy to use installer. But if you want to play 0K specifically, the Steam version is the best one to get. So that's it for my list of free strategy games worth checking out. I know there's a lot more free games out there I could have included, and the wonderful thing about the internet is there's never a shortage of people pointing out how wrong your opinion is and correcting you every step of the way. So if you're thinking of a free strategy game that should have been in there, make sure to tell me about it in the comments below so I can check it out and maybe include it the next time I make a list like this. I'm all for friendly discussion, and the more awesome free games we get, the better everyone's off, right? Anyway, thanks for watching all the way to the end, and see you next time. Peace!